This is like a reunion for me. Thank you guys for having me back here at Otakon. It's been a minute. I was at Otakon back in the days when it was in Baltimore. So this is kind of a cool full circle. It's weird to be anywhere right now. Honestly, I've been kind of sequestered away for a while. If you have no idea who I am, I'm Steve Blum. I'm a voice actor. Sort of like, you know, AA, but a little bit different. Don't quit. Yeah, no intention. I can't do anything else, so I don't know how to do anything else. I'm currently living in Hawaii. It was probably the best move I've ever made in my life, and so it's really weird for me to go off the island and do anything. But this is absolutely worthy of that, so thank you again for having me out here. And I don't have an organized panel. I just want to hear what's on your minds. I've been out of the meat world for so long. I'm just happy to see faces and talk to people in real time. So we have a microphone. That's the microphone here? Okay. Yeah, so if you have a burning question or even a watery question, come on up to the microphone and fire away, and I'll do my best to make up something because I probably won't know the answer. Okay, cool. Hellfire Club, nice. When you get to be my age, Larry, you'll understand. It gets worse. It gets a lot worse. Disrobe here. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's that kind of show. Kids, cover your eyes.
1, 2, 1, 2, check, 1, 2.
Beautiful. My call, ladies and gentlemen. Was that right? My call, please. Nice. Hi.
How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Just want to let you know I'm still working, and any fans that I have to ask this. How excited are you about this circus series and where you could be marketing?
Oh, wow. Well, for those of you who are Star Wars fans, if you know anything about the Star Wars worlds, if I knew anything about Ahsoka, I'd have to kill you if I told you. So there is a Dave Filoni chip in my neck. It's still installed. It's still hot. He tested it this morning. I felt the buzz. I'm very excited about Ahsoka. Cannot say if I'll be part of it. Even if I could say, I wouldn't. But I'm very excited. I love all the new content that's coming out. I love how it's all kind of tied into our show too, to Rebels. And yeah, and even before that to Clone Wars. So it's I love everything Ahsoka. I just had Ashley Eckstein as one of my guest teachers at bloomboxstudios.com, where we teach voiceover. But she came in and she was talking a lot about the series, and though she won't be doing it in live action, she's a big supporter of it too. So we're all one big family, so we're all really, really excited about it. And I'm just thrilled that Dave gets to make the show he's always wanted to make.
I mean, I love the shows they're doing now, and Obi-Wan. It's fantastic.
It's fun, right?
Lifelong Star Wars fan since '77.
Me too. I was there at the opening weekend, so may the Force and the Ashna be with you.
Just want to say thank you, and I also love you in every anime.
Oh, thank you.
And all the others.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Anime is where it all began. Thank you. Hi.
Most people don't know you for the Spikes Eagle, but I know you for two things in particular. Tank Dempsey
Hoorah!
and Transformers. And of course, Starscream. And so my question is more very simple but quick. Can you say, I, Starscream, command you to have a good day?
I, Starscream, command you to have a good day. But don't tell Megatron. He hates words.
For longer than you know. Thank you, Mr. Blum. Keep up the amazing work you're doing. Absolutely work that you're doing.
Thank you. You're beautiful, never transformed. Hi.
Test, test. All right. So my question for you is on bloomboxstudios.com. You wrote about how a long time ago you used to change your answering machine messages using different impressions. So I was wondering if there's any particular impression that was popular amongst your friends, and if you still do this.
Well, the most popular thing on the answering machine, for those of you who don't know what that is, it was this little thing with a tape inside it. There's tape. It record. The first thing I ever did on that was Goofy. So, oh, you've reached Steve. He's out doing something stupid. Leave a message. Whoa. Something lame like that, and I kept getting wrong messages, and people were calling. You know, some guy called. He got the wrong number, and he told his friend about this idiot that was doing Goofy impression. His friend called back, and then they told a friend, and my phone was just ringing constantly.
This is before the ignore button. So,
pardon me?
This is before hitting the ignore button. So
yes.
You have to let them all go to the answering machine?
Yes. So, yeah, it kind of became a thing, and I didn't know that I was going to become a voice actor for a living. It was just a fun, stupid thing that I did, and people started calling, complaining that I didn't change it often enough. Yeah. So, the Goofy thing is really popular. Nowadays, there's a thing that we do at some of the conventions called Twisted Tunes. And one character that's become really popular is Filthy Elmo. So it's kind of a twist on the Muppets, but not for kids. Elmo, you don't want to hear what happens to Elmo. Thank you.
Hey Steve.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great.
I have a question. So, how's it feel that Tsunami has been going on for 25 years? Have you been surprised that it's been on for so long?
Yes. Every day is a surprise when you're a voice actor. We get fired so much in our business that I'm just surprised and grateful every day that I still get to do it. Yeah, Tsunami is you know, it's kind of been there for a whole generation. A lot of people said that they kind of grew up watching Tsunami. They'd run home from school, and I see over there. Sorry about what I did to your childhood. I apologize. But I'm just so grateful that I still get to do it. Sonny Strait, of course, was the original Tom, and mad props to him for starting it all off and you know, letting the intruder eat him, and I got to take over. I didn't know at the time that somebody else had been playing Tom. But I'm so grateful that I get to do it. And they're so cool at Adult Swim too. They let me do it from pretty much anywhere in the world, which is why I can now live in Hawaii. In fact, I recorded a Tsunami session yesterday from my hotel room. I bring a portable recording studio with me, and I do it from all over the world. I did it once in a car at 4 o'clock in the morning in Australia, because it was too loud to do in my hotel room. But yeah, I love that Tsunami is bringing anime to a whole new generation, and continues to year after year after year. And I'm really glad also that they're continuing to bring new programming into the fray. Jason DeMarco and Gil Austin, the guys who are leading the way for Tsunami and have for some time now, are constantly doing co-productions and bringing new stuff into the fray. So for those of you who are still watching Tsunami after all these years, thank you. We'll be on tomorrow night. Only Tsunami on Adult Swim.
Hello, Steve.
Hi.
As I was looking online, I was curious on if your FSCO, your two characters, it says you're credited as David Lucas. Now, was that your choice? Is there somebody else, or is there a story behind that at all?
There's a little story behind that. Part of that goes back to the days when it was a union, non-union issue. And so before I got my union card, I didn't think that I was going to make a living at this. I didn't think it was going to become my career. I had 3 other jobs. And I thought it would just be fun to work under my kids' names. So 2 of my kids, their middle names, Jeremy, David, Brandon, Lucas. So I just used their names because I thought, you know, whatever I do, maybe they'll get famous. You know, I'll be recharging fire extinguishers for the rest of my life, which is, I think, is what I was doing at the time. It was just for fun, honestly. And you'll see credits on a lot of the early shows under all sorts of crazy names. There was a show called Trigun back in the day. Thank you. I was one of the main writers on that, one of the main ADR writers on that show. And I wrote, if you look in the credits, you'll see a name that says Andrew Watton. That was the name of my dog at the time. So And then for a bunch of other shows, our fearless leader back at the time, a guy named Kevin Seymour, would just arbitrarily pick names from like old rock stars, just random stuff. He was a music head, so a bunch of those names I'm sure have some sort of really deep-cut meaning to them. I have no idea. And like I said, I didn't expect to do this as a career, so it was all just fun and games for me. Thank you. Thanks for your question. Appreciate it. Hi.
Hi. So my question is, how was it? Like, what was your experience working on Cowboy Bebop?
Cowboy Bebop. First of all, can everybody hear the questions? Yeah. I can hear. Oh, that's it. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, if it does get too muffled, he says you can take off the mask for a minute. That's okay, I heard your question. What was it like working on Cowboy Bebop? It was awesome and terrifying. At the time, that was my very first leading role in any show. I had been hired as creatures and characters that, sort of yelled a lot and there wasn't a lot of acting involved. In Cowboy Bebop, I kind of learned how to act, especially during the movie. And it was my first leading role, and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, our director, was her first directing job. And so both of us were just kind of trying to figure out what to do in the booth at the time. And it seems to have worked out. It worked out pretty well. In fact, it worked out so well that Mary Elizabeth McGlynn is now alive in real life. We've been friends for however long it's been since Bebop was made, 25-something years, I guess. 20-something years, I don't know. I don't math, that's why I'm a voice actor. But it was amazing. In those early days, I just remember, especially for like the first 5, 6, 7 episodes, I was just scared all the time. Because as we saw the images on screen and listened to the music and saw what was done by the Japanese version of the show, we just didn't want to screw it up. I was just so scared of messing it up. And I've said before in interviews that I literally felt like I was going to poop my pants recording the very first episodes until we finally got a flow going. And then and it became even more nuanced when we did the movie. And that's when I had my big aha moment as an actor in the scene with Elektra when Spike was in the jail cell. If you guys remember that. And Spike had to get vulnerable. Well, I had to personally get vulnerable, and for me that was super, super uncomfortable to do. I mean, anybody that's into acting knows that that's a really critical component of great acting is realism. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be willing to go there and access some of that pain. And Mary gently took me by the hand and got me there, and it changed me as an actor, and it changed me as a person. I think I just became a better person as a result of that. So Bebop changed my life in every possible way. Well, thank you for that.
So 2 more questions, I'm sorry. Who's your favorite character in Cowboy Bebop? And you can't say Spike.
My favorite character?
Yes.
Probably Edward. I can't say I'm. I just can't say I'm.
Not Jet Blackwing?
What was that?
Not Jet?
Oh, I love Jet. He's my brother, but he's not my favorite. No, I love Jet, and I dearly love Bo Billingsley, who will be on a panel with me tomorrow. The panel tomorrow's listed as a Tsunami panel, but it's actually going to be a Bebop panel. We'll be talking a lot about Bebop, and please come to that panel and love up on Bo, because he needs it. He's an old man and needs the attention. No, I love him dearly. He is my brother.
Last question. What was your favorite line you ever said in Cowboy Bebop?
In Cowboy Bebop?
Yes.
All right, kids, cover your ears. I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass. Yeah. Moving forward, just so everybody gets a chance, let's keep it down to one question, guys, if that's okay. All right, thanks. Hi.
So with all of the iconic characters you portrayed over the years, was there any roles that have either tested or challenged your abilities as a voice actor and therefore evolved your craft?
Well, the thing that I just mentioned, that moment with Spike, that challenged me as an actor more than any other character, I think, because, well, number one, I did it in my own voice, which I wasn't really used to doing. Prior to that, I was doing a lot of, crazy creatures and stuff, and soldiers, a lot of military, incoming, that kind of stuff. There wasn't really a big challenge in terms of acting. It was a vocal challenge because they made me yell a lot. But in terms of acting ability, that was the thing that challenged me more than anything else because I had to speak in my own voice and be vulnerable. And that combination of things was terrifying to me. So that was probably the most challenging thing of all. In terms of just the physicality of voice work, there's a character that I was doing for Mortal Kombat called Baraka. And Baraka, he speaks like this, and I would do entire monologues like this. And you can imagine, 10 minutes into that, and I felt like pieces of my throat were flying out.
Some of the characters you portrayed, there are ones that I would never guess that was you.
Good.
Like, for example, there's Sergey from Officer of the Rat.
Oh, yeah?
At first, I was like, I can't believe it. This was actually voiced by him.
Oh,
and then
thank
later
you.
on, I started to realize that back then, he might have taken elements from his previous role as Orochimaru from another Naruto.
Yes. That was a bit of departure from what I was normally doing at the time.
But yeah, that's what I was more curious about. How they involved in the fact that be able to do thousands of roles in 1 second.
It's literally the only thing I know how to do, dude. Awesome, thank you. Awesome question.
2, 1, 2.
Nice hat.
Thank you. So my question for you is this. Besides Spice Beagle, was there ever a character that you enjoyed like playing the most, like Heat Blast, Ghostface, Green Goblin, Starscream, or my personal favorite, Mugen?
Dude, I love them all for different reasons. They're like my kids, so if I choose one, the rest of them fight. Which makes it really bad because they're all inside my head, and you just see like lumps coming out from the inside. I love them all for various different reasons. Starscream I love, Mugen I love just because he was kind of cool and awkward and weird. And I'm not the cool part, but I'm awkward and weird. And my fighting style is not effective, but it's really goofy. So no, I love all of them for different reasons. One of the characters that was transformative for me early on was Guilmon from Digimon. And it was also because I was, up to that time, I was doing big, bold, gnarly characters, a lot of evil characters.
And he was just a sweet, innocent little guy. And it was one of the few shows that my kids could watch and not get in trouble with their mom. So
yeah, that was very cool for me too. But I love them all for completely different reasons.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Got dumplings? Nice shirt.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, first off, I was going to say, I love your Spike and Cowboy Bebop.
Thank you.
But me and a lot of my friends, we also know you from the game Valorant.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to get you on record. What is the coolest Brimstone voice line?
The only one I remember is Molly! Literally, that's all I remember from the game. The games, most games, I don't have any context when I'm working on them. They'll give me like one quick line of context. I won't know what's happening in the story necessarily. And we're going so fast trying to get 100 to 300 lines done in a session that I don't remember them, and I don't play the games either. So I have to come here to hear what the most favorite lines are. So thank you for playing. Without you, I wouldn't have a job. Looking good there, Bob.
So do you, Logan.
I'm glad you can take the visor off without incinerating me down. That's good.
The eye surgery.
Good.
So say after this weekend's over, you could, however, cause your phone to ring and you get called to reprise an old character for a show revival. Who would it be?
Jamie from Megas XLR.
Nice.
just love to come back because I feel like we didn't get a fair shot. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, but that's the first one that comes to mind. Chicks dig giant robots. Hey!
Alright, first I wanted to say I really loved your work in Love, Death, and Robots.
Oh, thank you.
Kill Team Kill.
Yes.
You had a shirt for it? Oh, great. Oh, the ending song. Made me laugh so...
Bad word, you, honey badger! Can't say the real word in here.
I wanted to ask, so for Star Wars, when I know Dave Filoni played Chopper.
Yes.
He like voiced Chopper.
Yes.
I am curious if they gave you lines that Chopper would be saying that would later be changed, into a robotic kind of voice.
They absolutely did.
They did?
They did.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave always said Chopper was like the cat of the group because he wouldn't listen to anybody like cats do, and everything was on his own time and on his own terms. But yes, they actually wrote out dialogue for Chopper, and Dave secretly recorded whatever it was that he recorded. I don't know if he actually did words.
It sounds to me like you can actually understand Chopper if you listen very closely.
He probably did, I would guess, but they probably had some sort of processor to make it sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a big mystery for a long time. Glad we can finally talk about it. That part of the chip has been deactivated.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
First, I just want to say thank you for all your work. As someone who was raised by an old Korean man, for him, anime was just cartoons. And one day when I was like 12 or 13, he was like, Joshua, come here, watch the show. And it was Bebop. And some families had sports, like we had stuff like that.
Oh
so
my
thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank your family for me.
I was sure to tell my dad. So my question is, I think around last year or 2 years ago, when like the height of quarantine was going on, I saw like an online session for the ending song for Bebop, Real Folk Blues.
Oh yeah.
How did that come together? Because it just seemed like a big production,
That was a huge production. If you haven't seen it, look it up, you guys. It's Real Folk Blues. It's for charity. They raised a bunch of money, and I think I was one of the last people to come on board for this thing. They had been in production for quite some time. They even got Yoko Kanno on board for that, and she did a little cameo in it. It was amazing. And I have honestly had a very, very small part in it. They just asked me to say a few lines of Spike and kind of do the end, close-up thing for it. But the musicianship in that was insane. I can't believe that they pulled that thing together, and everybody volunteered their time. It was incredible work of love. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's pretty amazing. Real Folk Blues. Just look up that song, and it will come up. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi.
I'm a student at Boombox. I just want to say that's awesome. We should get Mona Marshall. She always talks about you. And
I love Mona.
She's awesome. She really is.
Thank you for trusting me in the school.
Yeah.
At BlueBoxStudios.com, where you too can learn the art of voice acting.
Shameless plug. I wanted to know what was your experience with Brave Fencer Musashi playing John and General Capricola.
Oh my God, this is a great example of one of those projects where I had no idea what was going on. I think I was actually in the studio doing something else, and they asked me if I'd be interested in auditioning for it, and it was in the same building. And I didn't have very many lines in it. I don't remember anything from it. I never played it. I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I don't even remember what my character sounded like. But thank you. It sounded like me? Oh, good, okay. Well, easy. And he was drinking, right? Just like me. Well, thank you for caring. I appreciate it. Again, I wouldn't have a job without you, so thank you. And thank you again for being part of Blue Box Studios. At BlueBoxStudios.com. Tell a friend. Hi, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Recently, I just finished watching Gurren Lagann, and I didn't know that you voiced Leon, because I always know that you have some awesome voices, but it's awesome you have such an impressive range. But I'm wondering, when it comes to suggesting a voice, do they just like, hey, can I do this voice? Or they're given like, okay, here's the character, come up with a voice.
That's a great question, especially for that show. For that show, I was not brought in to audition for Leron. I was brought in for a couple of the other characters. I think the one that was played by Kyle Bear, ultimately, because it was more in my natural voice range. But when I came into that room, I remember the Japanese creators were in the room, and the American production team was in the room, and they had all of the images of the characters kind of laid out on the table. And they said, okay, those are your audition sites right there. And I looked over and I saw a picture of Leron, and I said, what's that? And they said, oh no, that's not for you. And I said, what? Why not? And they said, no, that's not for you. And I said, oh, come on, can I just read for it? Can I try? And Tony Oliver, who was her director on that, he's this magnificent Shakespearean trained actor, brilliant director, very professional, very respectful of actors. And Tony knew that I like to play around in the booth. And when he saw that I was going after that character, he just kind of goes, oh no. And so I pick up Leron, and I go into the booth, and I read for a couple other characters, and I pick up Leron, and I got really excited, and I said, all right, I'm gonna go there, you guys. I hope I don't offend anybody. And the very first line I read was, when you screw it in, give it a hard manly twist, hon. and Tony's just going, oh God. And the Japanese client in the room is going, oh, it's so good! And Tony goes, oh, to encourage you. And I booked it, and I was so excited. I was more excited about that role than anything at that time. And I just remember torturing him at every session. I would rewrite every line that Leron had, and as crazy as we went with a line like that, I took it like 4 more steps into darkness, and Tony was just, oh God. Every break he told me he felt like he had a shower. It just made me so happy. Oh my God, I love that role. It was so great.
You wouldn't be Leron if you didn't.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it, hon. Watch out for creepy fingers here.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. You're a big inspiration to me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I want to be a voice actor like you did.
Awesome.
And as such, my question is, how did you get your foot in the industry?
Oh, by accident. Completely by accident. I didn't know that voice acting was a profession. I wanted to be a musician originally. I was playing in an R&B band during the 80s when hair and heavy metal acts were playing at all the clubs. And I didn't know any better. I was just having fun. And we had a couple of record deals that we were nurturing. I wasn't very good, but the band together was pretty good. And as a day gig, I got a job at a warehouse for a film company, a low-budget film company. At the time, it was called Empire Entertainment. We made movies like Reanimator and Ghoulies and some of those classic things, From Beyond, a lot of those things. Ultimately, they became Full Moon Entertainment. We made Puppet Master movies and a lot of those things. And I didn't know even who I was working for at the time. It was just a buddy of mine who said he needed some help running a warehouse. And I thought I could do that since I had no skills at all. And so we're moving props around, and they're getting rid of a bunch of stuff. I started filling up my whole backyard with swords and ice thrones and crap that they had used for their movies. Most fun job I ever had back then. And then I go into the mailroom, and he said, well, we've got a position open in the mailroom, and we need a driver. And as long as you have, I had a truck at the time for the music, because I hauled all the equipment around. It's the only reason I was in the band, because I had a truck. So I was working in this mailroom, and the head of the mailroom, the guy who brought me in initially, his name was Victor Garcia. He was an actor. Everybody in the building was an actor, wannabe actor, like everybody is in Hollywood. I was literally the only person in the whole building who did not care anything about acting at all. No aspiration to do it. But we would joke around in the mailroom, and there was a guy named Tom Fawn, who every time I saw him in the parking lot, we'd hitch up our pants and look at each other and go, hi, how are you? We turn into old men and start telling old men stories in the parking lot. And so Vic saw Tom and I doing that, and he goes, so you do funny voices? And I said, yeah, I guess, yeah. And he goes, I want you to come and try out for this Japanimation project we have coming up. And I said, what what is Japanimation? I didn't even know what that was. This is before they called it anime, back in those days. See, it was natural. Now I actually talk like that. And so I started working in this mailroom and driving, and we were just goofing around. And one day he said, well, this Saturday we're doing auditions for the show. And why don't you come out? I just need you to do like an audition for some creature voices. And I said, I don't, that's not my thing. I'm not an actor. And he said, I'll give you free food. And I said, okay. I was literally a starving musician. So they offered us free breakfast and more importantly, free pizza at lunchtime if we stayed that long. And they brought in pizza, yeah, cowabunga. So we all sat there at the base of this studio, and they brought us in a couple people at a time. And I got to watch all these great actors do their thing and match the lip flaps on screen, and I thought, oh, maybe I can do that. It doesn't look that hard. And so I came up to the microphone, and they had me do, the first thing I did was a creature voice, and I did the voice of a creature ripping the arm off of another creature and beating him with it or something. It was a creature called a zoonoid in a show called The Guyver. And so the very first thing I did, I walked up to the microphone and I'm looking at it, and I just, there were no beeps at the time for those of you who do ADR. Nowadays, we have, everything is digitized. You hear beep, 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 and on the fourth imaginary beep, you start talking. We didn't have any of that. We didn't even have time code at the time, and back then we had to learn to read time codes so we could see it flashing on the screen and know when we're supposed to come in. Back then, the director stood behind us and tapped us on the shoulder when we were supposed to start. It was pretty barbaric. So I go up to the microphone and I just see this creature doing this thing, and he goes, okay, what do you think that would sound like? And I went, and he goes, all right, you're hired. I went, oh crap. Okay, and I start sweating, and the only question I had was, do I still get my pizza? Just before lunchtime, by the time I got up to the microphone, I'd eaten all the breakfast stuff already, and I didn't think that it was going to evolve into anything, honestly. I just did it for fun. And ultimately, coming back week after week doing that, they gave me one of the speaking roles. I became one of the main bad guys on the show. They were so stupid to trust me with that. I literally had no idea what I was doing, but most people didn't at that time. So I just did it for fun. I kept working for that same company that kept hiring me over and over for different projects. Usually it was, creatures or bad guys, that sort of thing, because that's what I could do well. And because of my music training, I could actually match the movements on screen. The rhythm made sense to me. The rhythm of language made sense in my ear. So I literally just did it for fun. And hence, calling myself by different names, throughout the years and stuff, I really didn't take it seriously as a career choice. And then ultimately, many years later, I stayed with that same film company. I became an executive at the film company. I was head of marketing. I had this beautiful corner office in Hollywood. I would travel to the film festivals and making, I think, 6 figures at the time. I had really set a career for myself. And then I booked the role of the guy who did the "Oh Thank Heaven" thing from the 7-Eleven commercials. I was that guy who said "Oh Thank Heaven" at the end of the commercials. And so I thought, all my friends who were doing commercials, that was my first big commercial, everybody I knew who was doing commercials was buying houses and cars, and they were suddenly really wealthy. And I thought, oh my God, this is my ticket. I'm finally going to make some money, doing something that I really, really love. Because the film industry was getting really nasty. There was a bunch of corporate people taking over. I hated going to work every day. And so I quit my job. And I thought, this is it. 7-Eleven's going to buy me my house. And 2 weeks later, the union went on strike, and I was out of work for a year and a half. Yeah, so I was still doing animation. I was still doing anime on the side. That was one of the few things that still seemed to be going. And not making much money at it. I was making pretty much the same money now that I was making back then. It was terrible money. If you're getting into anime to make a lot of money, don't. Unless you're directing and producing and doing everything else. It's just not a high-paying gig. But I loved it. That was the one thing I loved to do. I had 3 other jobs to support my family. I hated doing everything else, but I loved doing voiceover work. And I loved the people in our community. And you've met a lot of the voice actors, I'm sure, by this time, and it's just a group of the most grounded, cool, authentic people I've ever met anywhere in the entertainment industry. And people are mean in the music industry, in film and TV. People are just mean, but they weren't in voiceover. it was a whole different kind of feel. And so whether I was able to parlay that into a career or not, I would still be doing it, even if I just did for fun on the side. Don't tell my agent, but that's the truth. And ultimately, it became a thing, and I was able to make money at it. But yeah, I didn't get into it for that reason. So thank you, though. So if you are a student, especially at bloomboxstudios.com, just know that one of the very first things I always say is to do it for the love of it. Don't do it to get rich or famous, because none of that would matter if you hate what you do. Awesome, dude. All right, keep at it.
I'll see you at the sightings.
Excellent. I will be waiting.
Hello, Mr. Steve.
Well, hello.
I was glad that you brought up Gilmon earlier on because I'm a huge Digimon fan. Gilmon is my favorite Digimon. I always pick him in all the games.
You have great taste, Mom.
Thank you. So my question here is, I think I saw something online saying that you did some adaptation work of the earlier Digimon series. What was that like?
I wrote for season 3 and 4 of Digimon. I was one of the ADR writers, and basically our job was to take the Japanese translation, which doesn't fit anything in the mouth flaps. Even in Japanese, it doesn't fit right. For those of you who are sub watchers more than dubs, you'll know that it doesn't necessarily fit. It doesn't matter if the acting's good. But our job was to rewrite them with all of the beats and phrasing so that it could fit into an American mouth, basically. We changed the language around so it made sense. Sometimes they don't make sense otherwise in the literal translations. And it had to sync. We had to get it to sync, otherwise we didn't think anybody would watch it, and they didn't for a long time. But it was a very tedious process. It would take me, I was really anal about it too, and we had to write time codes for everything. We had to watch it and visually write down all the time codes. It would take me 40 hours to write a 20-minute script, 22-minute script. Can't make a very good living doing that. So I did it for extra money though. That was one of my extra jobs, as I was trying to support my family at the time. But I learned to love it. I really liked it. It was fun working on a show like Digimon because I love the show so much.
Oh, yeah.
It had so much heart. And that and Trigun and a bunch of other shows that I was writing for at the time. It was fun. I did enjoy it, but I didn't sleep for like 3 years because I was just working too much. It took me too long. But thank you for accepting our adaptation of it, because a lot of people didn't back then.
That was the show I grew up on all throughout my childhood.
Oh, nice.
And then that version with Gilmon was my favorite.
Oh, thanks, mine too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Honor to meet you, sir.
Great to meet you too. Thanks.
And, to quote, you mentioned Chopper, to quote Maria, I'm sure he'll cause the robot uprising.
Yes, I'm sure you will.
And I want to ask, what was it like working on Naruto? What was like Mally Flanagan like? What was Yuri Lowenthal like? What was forget Voice of Sakura?
Well, they're just terrible people. You would hate them. Miley and Yuri particularly have become 2 of my very best friends. I love them so much. Miley just came and visited me in Hawaii a couple of months ago, and they're amazing, amazing people. Back then, we didn't work together though. We worked independently, which they still do it that way for anime or anything that's dubbed, because it's just more efficient to be in a room by yourself. We didn't work as a cast.
So it's not like Rebels were?
No, Rebels, the whole family was in there in playing off each other, which is actually a lot more fun. But because of the technicality of having to match all the lid flaps, we're a bunch of idiot 8-year-olds in adult suits as it is. So for the director to try to corral us to get work done, it would have been impossible. But we got to know each other in the waiting rooms. At the studio, they would kind of line people up. We'd usually have 2-hour sessions or so. Miley would be there for 6 hours or whatever because she had so much stuff to do. But we got to know each other a little bit socially in the waiting rooms, and that was it. And more so since the cons began, because back then we didn't really have conventions to go to. At the conventions, I love coming to these things also because I get to see my friends that I never work with in the booth. And especially now, after the pandemic, we don't work together at all. So, but we've all become really close. Most of that cast, we still stay in touch with each other. We're very, very close.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, how are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. I literally started in Baltimore, so it's like, yeah,
Wow, we've grown up together. Amazing.
So, my question would be, when did you start, when did you get an agent? Because it sounded like you started off, again, you said by accident, and then voice actors are always told, get an agent, because Greg Hauser said, go into commercials, because that's pretty much where the money is.
Yeah, okay, so there are two schools of thought about that. Yes, if you want to make money, go into commercials first and do your thing. I personally don't enjoy commercials as much. I do like it, but I don't enjoy it as much. I love animation, I love video games, I love movies, I love TV, I love all of that. There are a lot of teachers out there who will say, the very first thing they'll say is, get into commercials, get an agent, you're gonna make money. That's not why I'm doing this. You know, I can make money at a lot of different things. That isn't how I would choose to do it personally. Doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just not my way of doing it. I also advise my students not to get an agent in the beginning. Just learn the craft. You know, get really good first, then get an agent. I got an agent pretty early on. I was competent, I had done quite a bit of anime. I kind of knew what I was doing. I brought all of it to my agency and I paid her when I didn't have to, based on the jobs that I got myself, in good faith. I still do that with my agent now. I'll still bring in jobs and I'll still pay her, even though technically they're only supposed to get paid for what they get you. So yeah, I mean, the agent is working for you, basically. But I recommend that people don't get an agent and don't do a demo at first either, because you really need to get your skill set up there to the point where your demo, if it's listened to next to the best of the best, Yuri Lowenthal or Miley Flanagan or Rob Paulson or you know, one of the top people in the industry, if a casting director is listening to your demo next to their demo, it better be good, because the casting director may remember it for being bad, and that's not what you want. Same with an agent. If you go to an agent and you're not ready, the agent might remember you as being that person who tried to jump the gun. That said, when I first signed up with my current agent, Arlene Thornton, when I came in, I didn't have a lot of experience in commercials. I was very experienced in anime, video games, that sort of thing, brought a lot of that stuff to her. But they kind of led me by the hand and taught me how to do commercials. So at that point, if you've got some skill set, the agent may be able to guide you into another area of the field that you might not be familiar with. She also signed me up for some classes with some casting people and directors that helped me to evolve my skills too. But I couldn't do that unless I was already with an agency. So you want to do it incrementally. And so we start at the very, very beginning. And I always start with my students basically building their the life skill set of confidence, feeling good in your own skin, not taking other people's opinions and internalizing them and making that your own, which we all do. You know, all those negative voices in our head, it starts with something that somebody else said and then we amplify it. You don't have to do that. So that's where I start. I always start with the fundamentals of just feeling better about yourself and living a good life. And then you start building the skills, because this industry will tear you apart if you don't have that foundation. So take your time, guys.
Welcome to the panel where Steve Blum did like.
That's the way we roll at BloomBoxStudios.com. Thank you. Hi.
Howdy. At BloomBox Studios. I have two quick questions. Can I take one of those deer park bombs? Real quick.
They're not mine, sure, go for it.
What was it like voicing Dempsey, the man I grew up with?
Dempsey. Spluttering cutbacks is fun! I love Tank Dempsey. It was such a release for me. At the time when I started recording that, I was very stressed out in my life. I was still driving around a lot from studio to studio. And in Los Angeles, you could be in a car for 5 hours going from studio to studio in the course of a day. And so when I would get to that studio and I would get to scream as Tank, normally I don't really like to scream a lot, it hurts, it's bad. But the writing was so much fun that it was just an emotional release for me. And the writing just became better and better and better and more wrong as we went on. I loved working on that, and I loved the people that I was working opposite. We didn't work in the same room. But Fred Tatasciore, Nolan North, Tom Kane, oh my God, my brothers in Zombie Slaughtering, became family to me in the process of that. And so much so that we actually did an album together. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but we did an album called A Very Zombie Christmas, and we got in a lot of trouble for it. We took a lot of beloved Christmas songs and one Hanukkah song for Rick Toffin. And we got really drunk one night, and I was sick, I had a fever, and we went into the studio, Keith Aram from PCB Studios financed the whole thing. He had the music done for us, and we all went in there and did these terrible versions of Christmas songs, but all about slaughtering zombies. On first day of Christmas, my true love said, give to me one bottle of vodka. And it was just stupid. 6 shotgun blasts! This is that kind of stupid thing. And we did this whole album, and Activision had us pull it from, what was it? I forgot what the music franchise was at the time that it was put up on, but we got in a lot of trouble. They pulled it down. We were going to donate all the money to charity. It was just a fun project. We got in a lot of trouble for just not asking permission first. But that's how much we love the games that we were willing to do that. So, thank you. Oh, nice. Oh, love is in the air. Hi.
How you doing?
Great.
So nowadays we're starting to see a lot of games, TV shows become live adaptation. So as the voice of Spike, I'm curious of your thoughts on the Netflix version of Cowboy Bebop.
I actually loved it. I'm a fan of John's show, and I was supporting it long before it even went on the air, and when people were crapping all over it before they even knew what it was. I had issues with it. I had issues with a couple things in it, especially a couple of the characters.
Tell us.
I didn't like what they did with Vicious and Julia. Yeah, especially Vicious, I just thought should have been underplayed more. I just felt like he was just, too wild-eyed and out there, because he was just such a crazy, dangerous character. He didn't have to go that far. It was a choice. Cool, all good. I still watched it, still enjoyed it. Julia, for me, was rough because I felt like they played her as a victim. And I can't stand that in portrayal of women in general. Unless it really serves the story. I didn't feel like it served the story. They kind of deviated from the original story enough where it kind of became its own thing, and I'm totally fine with that. But I live with the lady who played Julia, and she ain't no victim, I can tell you that much. And I always saw Julia as this mysterious person that was sort of in the wings, and we didn't really know much about her, but I never saw her as a victim. I always saw her as like this secret badass who would surprise you with deadly skill sets and an awareness of her world that I just didn't feel was played in that. And that was a little bit disappointing for me. Everything else I loved. I loved John Cho's interpretation of Spike. I love Mustafa's interpretation of Jet. It was just so spot on. Faye, all the characters I just thought were beautifully, beautifully done. And cinematically, it worked for me. I felt like the world was right. The ships were beautifully designed. The ambiance of it was beautifully designed. I loved how they wove the music in unexpected places too. There's a lot of Yoko Kanno's music, but in different places in the story. Loved all of that. I thought it was really cool. We made an event out of it. I had friends over, and we made food and sat and watched it. So I wished it would have continued, honestly. And I wish they would have given us cameos. We petitioned hard for that, and they weren't interested. So. Oh well. My picture was on the fridge. So. Sir. Thank you. Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I just wanted to say first, it's nice to see you. You're the voice of my childhood, and I really love growing up in Tsunami and all that.
Awesome. Thanks for watching.
I'm nervous. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
My previous question was already taken, so I'll just keep it simple. Do you have a favorite anime, and have you ever cosplayed?
I don't really have a favorite anime. Sadly, I haven't watched many of them, including most of my own. I couldn't find the bandwidth to do it, honestly, especially something like Naruto, it's just 700,000 episodes. I just haven't found the time to do that, so maybe in my doddering years I'll go back. I have a lot of the old shows that were sent to me still shrink-wrapped on VHS, so at some point I'll sit down and force feed them to myself. So I don't really have favorite animes necessarily. One that really stuck out for me that I did watch was Trigun. And not a lot of people talk about it, but I love that show. I just love that show. It was fun, and the only reason it became my favorite is because I had to watch it because I had to write it. So I know it. I kind of know the show. And have I ever cosplayed? I cosplayed a couple times as Tom from Tsunami. Cartoon Network sent me to San Diego Comic-Con a couple of times. Actually, I think it was 3 times. And they dressed me in the Tom costume. They built a Tom costume for me. And we did a panel. I gained so much mad respect for cosplayers. You guys are superheroes. I was dying. And the first incarnation of it was a motorcycle helmet that they had modified. And it was heavy and really uncomfortable. And they tried to pad it up. And they were hot gluing pieces of the costume on me as I was about to go out on stage, and it was actually hot gluing it to my skin. And at Comic-Con, their setup was outside, and the closest hotel was about the equivalent of about 5 blocks away or so. It was burning hot, and we walked from the hotel out to the stage, and as I'm walking, pieces are literally popping off of my costume, and people are running around grabbing them and trying to glue them back on. And then I get up on stage, and they had a microphone set up inside the helmet, and it didn't work. So I ended up shoving the microphone underneath, and it was kind of pushing into my neck, and so the whole first part of it, was, it sounded like I had one of those throw things, it was rough. And also that helmet, they put some sort of stuff on it so that it wouldn't be, clear, so you couldn't really see my eyes like Tom. But I couldn't see out of it either. They didn't think that through, and they had just built the helmet the night before, so it was full of glue, and I was asphyxiating inside there too. It was, I mean, for those of you who are cosplayers, you know what this is like. You are probably suffering some of this stuff right now. Yeah. Oh my God, it was amazing. So anyway, mad respect for cosplayers out there. But it was fun. I'm glad I got to do it. Hopefully they'll let me do it again at some point. Thank you. Hi.
Okay. So, this is Gavin. I want to keep it simple, like the last person did. I don't think any reasonable person could expect you to remember all the roles you've ever done. I mean, yeah, I checked, and my God, that's a list that just does not freaking end, right? So I just wanted to know, of all the roles that you do remember, which one, A, did you have the most fun with, and B, are you most proud of?
Oh. Well, I try to have fun with every character, honestly. I know that's a really generic answer to a very specific question, but I try to find the fun. Even in the driest of commercials, I will try to have fun with it. Man, that's impossible. It's an impossible question to answer. Starscream was one of them, I would say, just because that run was so ridiculous. Watching Peter Cullen and Frank Welker right next to me, it was like, oh my God, it was like an 8-year-old fanboy squeeing in my head the whole time. Star Wars was amazing to work on because I've been a Star Wars fan since 1977. But I love them all for different reasons. There was a thing that I did called Kashmir the Flying Camel. It was an audiobook. Bryan Cranston did the narration for it. And I did all of the other male roles, and Colleen O'Shaughnessy did all the female roles in this thing. It was Kazmir. Most people have never heard of it. It's actually brilliant. It's really, really good. And in that story, I got to play an entire landscape made out of human feces. They're visiting all these different worlds, and one of these worlds was this place where this creature basically embodied all of the refuse of humanity. And so it's just this bubbling, oozing pile of poop that spoke. And for me, that was one of the highlights of my career. And I knew that most people would never listen to it. Most people would never experience it, but for me, I got to tell my kids, I played a pile of poop today. I played a lake of poop. I played an ocean of poop. So that was wonderful. What was the other question? I don't know.
Which role are you most proud of?
The poop. that's a really tough word for me. I don't like that word. But in recent memory, probably Zeb from Star Wars, just because it's always great when you play something in a franchise that you love, but it's even better when that character is important to the franchise, that actually means something to the franchise. And not only in that role as sort of a big brother figure and part of that family, but as something that will go on for generations to come as part of Star Wars canon. It's just awesome to be part of that. So I had a great time doing that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello. So first off, I want to say thank you.
Of course.
You've definitely been a huge part of my childhood. I've been playing video games since I was a little kid.
Oh, nice.
And definitely as Tank Dempsey.
Nice.
Been playing that game a lot earlier than I should have been.
Sorry. Please apologize to your parents for me.
But my question is actually more so for the doing the voice of Wolverine.
Yeah.
I just want to say that first off, you've become a staple of that character, growing up. Definitely, I've always loved Wolverine. He's always been one of my favorite Marvel characters. My question was, what was it like working on, like a Marvel project?
I love working on Marvel projects. I worked on a lot of Marvel projects. There's a bunch of different characters. Wolverine, of course, is very near and dear to my heart. He was the first big character that I got to play for Marvel. And the longest running character I think I've ever had. I think there's a world record or something. I played Wolverine more than anybody else or something, which I didn't know until very recently. But I love working on Marvel projects. I've always loved that franchise. My very first job as a little kid, 12 years old I think, I was working in my grandfather's bookstore in the comic book department sorting comics. And never in my wildest dreams did I expect that at some point I would get to voice one of my favorite superheroes. And especially an anti-hero like Wolverine, who just didn't want to be a superhero. That's exactly my style, So it was amazing. It was amazing. I still kind of pinch myself every time they bring me in to play Wolverine on something. I'm always thankful. I'm a very thankful mutant, bub.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love everything you have going on here.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad there's some Animal Crossing.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
If there's ever an Animal Crossing movie, you make a perfect soundtrack.
Oh, thank you. Hire me, please. If you're listening.
Question. Alright, so like my friend said, you were a big part of my childhood and all that. I remember being 6 or 7, watching Cartoon Network, waking up, you telling me to watch Samurai Champloo.
Yeah.
So I did it, and I loved it. Shout out to my parents for letting me watch that at the age of 6. So. Yeah.
It's so wrong and so right.
Alright, so my question is, your portrayal of Mugen was probably one of my favorite things ever. Like, just his wittiness and his charisma is just amazing. What was your retrospective looking back on your time working with Samurai Champloo and the character Mugen?
Well, that's kind of a tough question for me because I've never seen it. Sorry, yeah, I've never seen it. And it was so long ago, I barely remember, what I did on the show. But what I do remember is we came into that show pretty fresh out of Cowboy Bebop. And I remember reading for Mugen, and they said that they wanted me to use the same voice that I did for Spike. And I really didn't want to do that. I just thought, people are going to hate me. I'll be labeled as the guy who does one voice. And I was, for many years, actually. The other thing about that show that I remember is that the Japanese client was in the room for every episode that we recorded. And they analyzed the crap out of every single line that we did. They wanted to make sure it was just like the original Japanese. In Bebop, there was nobody there except the director, the engineer, and me. And we got to play a little bit more and interpret things for an American audience. So I felt a little restricted in the room, and I was kind of worried that it may not be as palatable to an American audience. So I'm grateful that it worked. The jokes worked. The writer was really good on the show. And the director was really careful to make sure that we did a faithful job to the original Japanese, but it also made it Americanized enough so that people would relate with it here. So thank you for watching it. I'm glad it worked. I'm just glad it worked. I had no idea at the time.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Eat your dumplings.
50 dumplings!
Hi.
Well, a lot of people's first experiences with you were as Spike or Mugen. However, I did not exist at the time. At least Bebop. I don't remember exactly when Shaky 2 came out, but my first experience with you was playing Dragon Age Origins, age 11.
Work is funny.
And so, but like I think a lot of people here, I think I probably Bebop was the trees so yeah, another like any Americanization. But how does it feel to you to know that like, people are still picking up Cowboy Bebop, still fighting for its rightful place as best of all time, even all these years later?
It's amazing that people are still watching it, still vibing with it, sharing it with the next generation. I think it speaks to the quality of the show before we ever got our hands or voices on it. You know, it was a masterpiece before we even started the American adaptation of it. So we're all just so grateful. We talk about this all the time as a cast, about how grateful we are that it still means so much to people and has for so many years. Not every show is like that. So we're just grateful and honestly a little bit surprised that it still resonates as true now as it did 20 years ago with people, probably even more so now. And also thank you for putting up with me as an 11-year-old talking about misery, vomit, and malt liquor. It reminds me of home. Watch out for the nug humpers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Spectacular. You are spectacular.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to think outside the box. And honestly, I don't have cosplay money. I found this suit laying in my shack for the past 3 years, not like
Even better. I hope it's filled with spiders and whatever.
Okay, so I'm a 94 kid. I remember watching Tsunami in the early to mid 2000s. My age was Sailor Moon, Bobo, Dragon Ball Z. I love all that stuff. Pretty awesome shows. My question is that in the acting business, people often have to transform their personalities or mentalities in order to get into the feel of the character that they're voicing. You have countless examples of people who are like the nicest people ever who wouldn't hurt a fly in real life, but when they get on stage or in the booth, they can play the most despicable being of all time. My question for you is, out of all the acting roles you remember, what character do you remember being the most unlike you, and what character do you remember being like a rather smoother transition?
Ooh. Well, one thing that I know now as an older person, we all have all of those qualities, even the ones we may not want to admit. And so if you'd asked me earlier in my career, I would have said all kinds of things. We did I can't even remember the name of it, but I played Lucifer in this video game. Or it was a movie. We did this movie, and I played like 5 different versions of the devil, and I was awful, just this awful, disgusting being. But there's probably a little of that in me, you know. To be perfectly honest, there's a little bit of me in everything that I do, and I think if you don't acknowledge that, you're not going to get an authentic performance. And you know, back in the day, I would have been embarrassed or ashamed to say that I was not a nice person sometimes. I wasn't. You know, I work on that all the time now. I'm much better now. But I think if you don't invest yourself to the point where you're willing to connect with the parts you don't like about yourself, you're not going to evolve as a person, and you're not going to be the best actor you can be. So I know that's probably a deeper answer than you were expecting.
No.
But that's true for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm much nicer now, though. I am much nicer.
How did it feel playing such an amazing character for such a long time?
Yeah. Tank was one of those characters that started out as just kind of this brute force, screaming guy, splattering, you know, zombies that deserved it. And he evolved into the same guy, but a little bit more nuanced and actually part of a really dysfunctional family. And he actually cared about some stuff. It was interesting to work on a project like that where a character had some development, especially in the video game world. It was really cool at a time when not a lot of characters were really doing that. You know, in recent years, Last of Us, Uncharted, those kinds of things, the characters have these gigantic arcs. It wasn't so much like that back then. I didn't realize the value of that until it was over. And they brought all four of us together in a room at the studio, and we were doing that goodbye video. That's when it really hit. And we realized that, oh my God, we've been doing this thing for 10 years. People kind of grew up on this franchise, and it really meant something to them. We also didn't know that a brutal game like that, where we spend all of our time, you know, destroying these creatures, would be something of value to people who you wouldn't expect. Like a lot of military people, especially people who were fighting in Afghanistan at the time, Marines would come to the panels or come to my signing table and say that Call of Duty got them through their time in the service. They'd be out doing horrific things on the battlefield, experiencing terrible things and deaths of friends and suicide of their comrades and stuff. And they'd go back to their tent at night and they'd play Call of Duty. It seemed crazy to me that they would want to do that, but they said it made them feel normal. It made them feel like that's what they would have been doing at home with their buddies, and kept them sane in that process. So to work on a project like that had that kind of an impact on people that I respect and admire so much, I felt like I am not worthy. You know, I'm just so grateful to have been part of it. Dude, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Hello, my friend. You're looking ice cold. I feel the chill.
So I first heard your voice as Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat X, and I was just wondering, could you say for the Lin Kuei your signature voice?
Yeah, sure.
Can I get under you?
Sure. All right, tell me when you're ready. For the Lin Kuei. Nice. Stay frosty. Thank you for coming. Thanks for ripping spines out with me. Always a good time. Hi.
Hi, Steve. I think you're one of the most iconic voice actors of all time. I love you. I grew up with you as Tom and Tsunami. I love you. I just love your work, and I was wondering, like, if you ever had a chance to revisit it, you know, something as like a you know, kind of like a new like media for the movie and having it.
Wow, I'm too lazy to do that, so you're probably not the right person to ask. Oh man, I don't know. I just feel like so many shows ended before their time. It would be fun to just pick up where we left off with things like Wolverine and the X-Men, or Spectacular Spider-Man, or Megas XLR, those kind of shows. I cannot confirm or deny. I'm just a dumb mutant. And you know I'd have to kill you if I told you. If I did know you. If I did know, I'd have to kill you if I told you. So, yeah, that's... yeah. NDAs are a real thing, and so is the chip in the neck. But if they ask me, I'll be there, Bob, in a heartbeat. I'm still the best there is at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice. Thank you. Hi.
So, I knew you for like Sub-Zero and MK11, and I did like more research on the work and found out you were from Tsunami. And I also found out that you did voices for games, like you were Zabuza and Orochimaru for some games, and Yoshi Cooper for Sly Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
And Taskmaster for Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Rick and Mook. Yeah.
But one that caught my eye, you voiced a character in Ratchet & Clank 2. It was like the leader for Thugs for Less.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, because that was my childhood. With that being said, what was like the most obscure role you've been asked about?
Most obscure role I've been asked about?
Yeah, like somebody's like, oh wow, you remember that.
Wow. Wow, that's one, actually. That guy I haven't thought about in years. I don't know. The poop thing was a big one. Somebody actually asked me about that, and I had to look it up because I couldn't remember. I don't know. People come up with all kinds of random stuff, and I have to go back and do my homework and see if it was really me that played it. I have no memory for that kind of stuff.
President Clinton going commando.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the leader of Thugs.
Was he a big guy that was kind of behind the counter selling parts and things?
No, he was like a gang, like of ships and whatnot. I remember one scene where he was trying to be like, intimidating in like a video with the lights were dark and it's all turned on. I was like, hey, who turned on those lights? Cut them off. It ruins the feng shui.
Okay, so that is my new favorite random thing because I had no idea I did that.
That's great.
Now I gotta go look it up.
Could you say in Sub-Zero's voice you teleporting more?
What is the line?
Could you say you teleporting more? Because that was said for April Fool's joke.
You teleporting whore. Sorry, kids. Sorry. Time travel's real, though. Hi. That's great. Nice to meet you, too.
The voice of probably everyone's childhood in this room.
Oh, wow. That's a big responsibility.
I'll take it too late. I have two questions I'll be quick about it. My best friend in the back wants to know, since you're the voice actor Scorpion, Baraka, and Bo Right Show, who's your favorite?
Between Baraka and Bo Right Show?
And Sub-Zero.
And Sub-Zero. Oh, wow. Guilty pleasure, probably Bo Right Show. I couldn't get away with that character anymore, though. Back then, everybody kind of did everything, and we were there doing multiple roles. And they just asked if I would be a drunken master, and I thought that was super fun. But now, when I do a voice like that, I get in big trouble. And there are so many amazing Asian actors that should be doing that role, so I'm sorry. But it was just a fun, really fun thing for me to do. I really enjoyed that. But between Baraka and Sub-Zero, I would have to say Sub-Zero because it's just much less taxing on the throat. Baraka, I love the character. I love how he's fleshed out. I love the character design, but it freaking hurts. Baraka, every time I go in to do Baraka, I just dread those sessions because I know I'm going to be in pain afterward. And that's a good red flag for all of you voice actors that do vocally stressful voices. Be careful what you wish for because you just might book it. It's rough. It's really rough.
And my second question is, way back when, I don't know too many people remember, they actually tried to get rid of Tsunami, and all the fans immediately were like, no, we gotta get him back.
Yeah.
How did you feel about coming back after that?
Oh man, well I was right there with everybody fighting for Tsunami back in the day. I learned how to use Twitter because seriously, the night that we did the April Fool's thing, it was just kind of a love letter to the fans. They didn't have any money. Everybody donated the programming. Everybody donated their time. They just asked me if I'd be interested in doing it. And I said, sure, that sounds like an amazing thing to do. And I forgot who it was. I think it was Jason DeMarco, maybe Gil Austin, but one of them said, check your Twitter. And I said, I just signed up for Twitter. I don't even know how to use it. I said, check your Twitter feed. And it was blowing up that night. And one of the fans actually got online and did the Bring Back Tsunami hashtag. I think that's what it was at the time. And all of it, I stayed up all night just tweeting with the fans and encouraging people to contact the network if they wanted it back on the air. I thought, sure, maybe that'll work. I don't know. And so many people got on board, they actually shut down the website for, I think it was Cartoon Network at the time. I don't remember if it was Adult Swim already, but they basically shut down their website. It's just too much traffic flooding in. And the network just got pissed off at us. And they said, all right, fine, you can do your stupid show again. We're not going to give you any money. We're going to give you a crappy time slot. Nobody's going to watch, but here, go ahead and do your little stupid show. And people started watching again. Who knew? And so we just kind of did it for fun, hoping that, we'd kind of grab a little bit of that audience again and be able to start bringing anime to another generation. And who knew? It worked, and here we are every Saturday night. Only Tsunami, still going after all these years. So, thank you. That's the power of you guys. That had nothing to do with me. That's the power of you guys standing up for what you want. So.
Hi, Steve. I'll be the millionth person that says it. I grew up watching you as a kid and seeing you in person and hearing all the voices. I feel like I'm transported to my kid self coming home from school watching Transformers or Ben 10 or staying up and watching Tsunami. So,
oh, nice.
And thank you for all that joy.
My honor. Thank you.
So my question is, when you're reading a book, comic book, or manga, do you ever, with a character, do you ever like find yourself thinking of a voice for them? And if so, is there any character that you saw that were making an animated show for it, like whether it was a leading character or a side character that you would just audition for in a heartbeat?
Yeah, that's how voice acting began for me. I mean, working in my grandfather's bookstore, my first job was sorting comics. I mentioned that earlier, but they would put me up in this attic area where nobody wanted to be. There was no air conditioning out there. It was in the middle of summer, dusty, gross, but I got to read comics all day. It was really cool. And that's where the voices really started forming in my head. And I think anybody who's really into whatever they're reading, you're gonna hear voices of these characters. And that's why some people don't like our versions of it, because it doesn't match what they had in their head. I was just excited to get to do anything, honestly, to be able to actually vocalize all those voices that were in my head. Early on, though, specific to your question, I was a big fan of Batman back in the day. I would read a lot of Batman comics. And I thought as I got older, my voice dropped, and I thought that my voice print, my natural speaking voice, would be right for Bruce Wayne or Batman. And I always wanted to audition for it. Back in the day, I auditioned pretty ferociously for it until I heard Kevin Conroy. And I thought, no, he's my Batman. and the voice that I heard in my head wasn't exactly what was coming out of me or exactly what was coming out of him, but he did such a beautiful, authentic portrayal of Batman that there was nobody else for me. And I've heard other people's versions of Batman, and I love them. There's been a lot of different people who've played him before. And I got to voice Batman in a couple of things. But Kevin will always be my Batman, so.
Thank you.
But thank you. Awesome, thanks. Hi.
So first of all, I really loved your portrayal of Starscream. So mostly.
Thank you.
But so you voice acted a lot, and you kind of went through the microphone and recorded a lot. Sometimes, like I get some people, like a lot of people get this feeling when they finish recording something, they listen to their voice, and you're just like, oh, I really sound like that. It's like, do you ever have to kind of like hurdle to get over?
I did, yeah. I hated my voice in the beginning, and I just thought it sounded weird, and impressions always sounded wrong. The only one that really sounded pretty good to my ear was Goofy, honestly, back in the day when I did that answering machine thing. That one sounded pretty good until I met Bill Farmer, the guy who does the voice of Goofy, and then I thought, oh, dang. You know, my Goofy was pretty good. He's Goofy. He's freaking Goofy. So back in the day, yeah, I hated it. And that's one of the things that I discussed very early on with my students at bloomboxstudios.com. That one of the very first classes that I did was learning to love your voice. And it's a hard thing to do for most people. So if you are in that place right now where it's sounding weird to you, you don't like it, or you get frustrated by it, keep doing it. Just keep recording, keep listening to it over and over again, and fall in love with your voice exactly as it is. It may not be where you want it to be yet, but it is what it is. And I look back at my career now, 30 plus years ago, and I listen back to some of the stuff that I did back then, and I cringe. And I did a version of Goku for Dragon Ball GT, this game, and the first time I actually heard it back, a fan played it for me at my signing table, and I was sitting next to Sean Shammal. Goku, and I went, oh, this really stinks. No, he's my Goku. Go over and have him sign it. So, I still have that from time to time, and things still surprise me, but in a good way now. Now, I was just doing auditions last night and this morning, and some things that came out of me that either because I was groggy and jet-lagged, or because the weather, whatever, things came out differently than I was expecting. And usually I know where things are going to come out. I can, just because of the vocal, the muscle memory in my throat, I know what's going to come out before it comes out now. That was a challenge back then too. I would think this is going to come out. And this comes out instead. I never know what it was. But now things still do surprise me, and I love when that happens. So I'll always do 3 takes of every line, just because I play. I go back to that play space when I was a kid, and I'll experiment. Even if it feels weird or wrong or whatever, I'll experiment. And now it's all digital, so I can erase that and do it again if I really hate it or I don't think it's right for the character. But I encourage people, especially at the very beginning of their career, don't judge yourself so harshly. Just have fun with it, and just know that you are exactly where you are at the right time. This is exactly where you're supposed to be. You know, if it ain't perfect, that's okay. It never will be. So it's just going to be varying degrees all the way up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A lot. Also, another thing, kind of like a small request. Could you do Starscream as if it was like calling for a voice message?
For you? Tell me your name.
Michael.
Michael.
Hello, you've reached Michael's voicemail. This is Starscream. Yes, I'm out of work. Don't rub it in. Leave a message. I'll cover you in bad energon. The purple kind.
Thank you. Oh, 10 minutes? Or are you just giving me double high fives? Giving it right back to you. Yeah. We just threw love all the way across the room. Hi.
Hi, Steve. I'm Jarrell. It is an honor to meet you. I've known you as the voice of Tom, Spike Spiegel, Vincent Valentine. As someone who does tabletop RPG games and does storytelling with us, I do a lot of voices as well. My father actually got into voice acting. I wanted to ask, have you ever done voices for tabletop RPG or done tabletop RPG with your friends?
We have, actually. We had 2 campaigns. We played D&D, 5th version, I think it was. And we had a great time. My main character was a guy who was loosely based on Ogren from Dragon Age. He used to say, cover your ears, kids. He used to call people ass chabs. So I named my character Asher Chabs. And he was a dwarf barbarian, and he spoke very much like Ogren did. He had his girlfriend was a pig named Gladys, a real pig. Wild boar, actually. And yes, it was a physical relationship. It was just wrong on so many levels. But I had the benefit of playing with some really, really good people. Jen Muro, who's a great writer for a lot of Star Wars and Marvel stuff. Brian Foster, who you guys might know from Critical Role. Ashley from Critical Role was in our campaign. Mary Elizabeth, my wife, was in the campaign. She played numerous characters in that. Logic was in our campaign. My friend Logic. We had so much fun, and we did the most ridiculous voices you could imagine. A room full of voice actors or writers or producers. They were all entertainment people. It was stupid. We barely got anything done. We would always serve food and booze before we started playing, and it was so hard to drag everybody back to the table because everybody's doing voices in the kitchen. And Brian just kept saying, save it, bring it over here, bring it over here. And it was great, we had a great time. But then the apocalypse hit and we couldn't do it in person anymore. So we were really sad that we had to end the campaigns prematurely. We never got to finish them. And I would love to do that again. Now that we're moving to Hawaii, we're building a house and we're going to have a table that's specific. It's a big table and it's going to be specific for RPGs. So I would love to get back into it and actually learn how to do it well.
One of my NPCs was Alan Rickman, pretty much.
Oh, nice.
I can do an impression of him.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm Lord Graydon, the head of House Liam, and I am very, very boring.
That's awesome. Chocolate crack in your throat and everything like you did. That's great. One of my favorite people of all time. Amazing. Thank you. We even did a Star Wars RPG.
Star Wars RPG?
We did a Star Wars RPG, yeah. Look it up.
Yeah, we're going to do that one pretty soon.
Oh my God. Freddie Prinze Jr. hosted this thing. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a little nervous. Normally I'm not nervous, but I'm probably like most people on here. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you because specifically everybody here, of course, their childhood is affected by your voice, but I'm not sure if you remember this role, but like one of my favorite anime was Great Teacher Onizuka.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And besides like the pervy aspects of him, like I still watch him to this day when like I'm doing some writing or like emails or something, and it's like even though his character is 22, I still find like the way you breathe life into him inspiring, and like gives me confidence. So I just wanted to really thank you for that because that had a big effect on me. So.
Thank you. It's interesting that you brought that up as a confidence builder, because that particular show, we didn't have a proper script for. We just had the original Japanese translation. Nothing fit into the mouths of the characters. And they knew that I was a writer also, so they brought me in specifically because they knew that I could rewrite the lines on the fly. So that entire show, what was it, 26 episodes or something?
Yes.
It was like an improv exercise. It's literally making it up as it went along. It's shocking that it made sense at all.
Yeah, so, and that's the thing, because mind you, I saw it when I probably shouldn't have, I was a little too young for a baby.
Naughty.
But I remember that I was watching with my sibling, and there's just something about the way where, yeah, this guy wants to get a girlfriend, that's what I knew in my head as a kid, but then he's like, yeah, it's more important to help people, and that just kind of affected me, so.
Yeah, good.
And I don't know how often people even bring up that one, but it's like, even when I see memes of that, it's like, yeah, that show's like.
Awesome. You can still have a little bit of pervy in you and be a good person. It's okay.
Thank you very much. Good one.
Thank you. Stay in school. Hi.
Good to meet you again. I saw you 3 years ago at Otakon and you yelled at me with a Wolverine voice, Mike Markers in your ear.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Sorry if I scarred you or got any marker on you.
But yeah, I'm glad you're here. I really missed you when Kari and Kirk were here for the Samurai Champion anniversary. But my question was, what kind of voice work do you prefer to do in general? Do you prefer to do more game roles like Ron Valkyrie? Or do you prefer like Wolverine or any anime roles you've done throughout like the years? Like, which one do you prefer more or less?
The answer is yes. All of it. I love doing what I do, and I don't really care what the project is as long as it's good. I mean, if the writing is good, doesn't matter if it's a game, doesn't matter if it's an anime, doesn't matter if it's original animation, doesn't matter if it's a commercial. If it's good, if it's well written, and the people believe in what they're doing, I'm all in. I love it. So it's less the medium and more the project for me. That's why I mentioned Star Wars before, because I thought it was so faithfully written, those kinds of projects, when they're just put together by people who are true fans. And they care about what we think as fans. I love that more than anything. So, yeah, I couldn't pick one. It's whatever I'm doing on Monday because I'm still employed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the time.
Thank you.
Is there any characters that you didn't get to voice that you wanted to?
That's a great question, but Batman was one of those characters that I thought, I'd be really right for. But I have no regret about it because it was done by Kevin Conroy. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I'm so lucky to have gotten to do what I've gotten to do in my career that I don't look at anything as the one that got away or something that I didn't get to do. I spend most of my time as best I can in gratitude for what I do get to do. So it's a much healthier way to live. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but sorry. That's what's true for me. I've evolved a little bit. Thank you. Hi.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
So I've got a blast from the past. I was wondering if you remember a little anime from the late 90s called I'm Gonna Be an Angel.
Yes. Does anybody know this one? I'm Gonna Be an Angel?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was one of my favorite projects to work on that very few people saw.
And I was wondering, if you remember your Yusuke voice, would you say you were my age?
Yusuke was just a younger version of me, if I remember right? You're my angel.
Oh my God. Thank you for bringing that up. That's something you mentioned earlier about obscure references. That was the first time I got to work with Stephanie Shea. Many of you know her from a bazillion roles that she does now. She's an amazing director and voice actor, but she was an assistant on that show. And I got to see her evolve as an artist from that show. And it was really fun and really weird and very short, and very few people saw it because it was only available on VHS, I think, even to this day. But oh no? Okay, I was just told that you're going to be the last question. I'm so sorry, you guys. Unless we do like a super speed round. Oh, I gotta go downstairs apparently. I'm so sorry, you guys. Come to my table, I'll answer your questions. I promise. I'm so sorry. So you'll be our last one.
Thank you for flying out. My favorite character of yours is Vincent Valentine, and I was wondering, after all these years of voice acting, what are your fondest memories?
Vincent, I loved voicing because it didn't hurt my throat. Honestly, I was doing a lot of screening at the time on other projects, and when I came in to voice Vincent, he was whispering the entire time. And it was so beautiful visually to watch what was happening on screen and match that. It was just a joy to do it. It was kind of my haven where I could come and heal between the other jobs. I was working, I think, on 5 different shows at that time. And that was the one I looked forward to because it just didn't hurt. Yeah, but it turned out to be an amazing show, and I was just really lucky to be part of that show and the game. So thank you for loving that as much as I did. I gotta leave. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going down to my signing table, wherever that is. I don't know where it is, but I'm going there, and I'll see you guys there. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you.